Welcome back to the morning kickoff right here on Sports Radio AM 1300 The Zone. It is a way back Wednesday edition. When it's Wednesday, that can only mean one thing. Our guy Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman joins us. Got his McCallum shirt on. Is it Taco Shack Bowl yet? Is it this week? Is it tomorrow?
No, I mean, they ruined the Taco Shack Bowl last year when they decided to, shell out to the highest bidder or whatever they did with that nonsense. But they're district rivals now, so it's in the middle of this season. Anderson McCallum.
Oh man, that's crazy. I thought this was the time to kick off the football season. That means that it's time to get busy. It is the start of the football season, and yesterday we got a chance to spend some time with Arch Manning, Bo Masco, and
Justin Cryer.
Yeah, Justin Cryer, Juice Cryer yesterday, and the story seemed to be about Arch Manning and his trash talk amongst everyone. And I had somebody text me the other day and ask me, or actually called me and asked me, he said, man, do you think there's some turmoil in the locker room? And by all accounts, from every person that we've talked to, this seems to be probably one of the tightest, knittest groups that Texas has had in quite some time. Do you feel like there's any angst in the locker room?
I mean, anytime a player gets kicked off for detrimental conduct to the team and there's not much clarity about that, I think, there's questions to be asked. But it's August. This Texas team has not faced much adversity yet. You'd expect for there to be a lot of kumbaya and happiness. And, at this point in the season, we'll see, as we go along, winning tends to breed a lot of happiness, but there's a couple losses. Things tend to get a little rocky, but I mean, you know how it is in this business. If they go and win a national title, we're going to be talking next year, and they're going to be like, well, last year's team was actually trash when it came to camaraderie. This year's team is a lot better. Or if they go 0-12, it's going to be the exact same storyline. So it is what it is. All that matters is that they're ready to go September 5th, and they're not all fighting on the sidelines.
Danny Harge and I, he wouldn't call it an argument, but I say it's an argument that Texas has offense is bringing back a lot of players that were on that offense last year. Those players have developed and are better. They brought in guys that were supposed to, for lack of a better term, take them over the edge. And with Ohio State losing 4 of the best players in the country, and guys that got drafted in the top 10 in the draft last season, do you feel like that the advantage is in Texas court?
I mean, Ohio State lost a lot of people, but it's not like Ohio State is the University of Montana. Ohio State reloads. They're bringing in 5-star kids. They're bringing in the same, caliber of transfers every year. I mean, they reload. They don't rebuild. And this Texas team does bring a lot of talent back, but you're going to have a completely new receiver core minus Ryan Wingo, and Emmett Mosley was in and out last year. So the receiver core is kind of developing. You're going to have new tight ends. You're going to have a completely new backfield. The offensive line, which was a mess last year, is going to be completely rebuilt, and you don't know whether or not Trevor Gooseby is going to be back in 2 weeks. So sure, I mean, Texas probably be favored because they're going to be home. It's going to be nice and warm in Austin. We'll get to treat those Ohio boys to a nice September evening here.
He froze up. He'll be back in just a second. But he's right. I mean, you look at the offensive line and what Texas is needing to do for that offensive line. They're still trying to get chemistry. Lawrence Seymour is just getting back to practice. He just got back to practice on Monday. And so the adjustments are being made with the offensive line as well. Go ahead, Danny, continue.
So I guess whoever's in charge of there must be an Ohio State grad. I didn't like what I was saying about the Buckeyes, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you can say one way or the other that these are 2 very talented teams, 2 loaded teams, 2 teams are they're 1-4, 1-5 in the preseason polls. So I don't think one way or the other you can say one team's going to be an overwhelming favorite, regardless of because that's also the thing about college football now is we don't know. These rosters turn over so much. We don't know what it looks like with these offensive players playing together. We don't know. In Texas could be bringing back their entire team, but you sprinkle in a couple key transfers, and we just don't know what that's going to look like. So we're going to have to figure out on September 12th what exactly who the better team is.
We're talking to Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman. You can follow him at _Danny Davis. And Danny, we talked to Sark. Now we get a chance to talk to Arch Manning. We've asked him a bunch of questions. Does he seem more in control of the situation than he did last year? I know he doesn't give us a lot, but when he does talk, he's engaging. He has some quick wit about him, but doesn't he seem like he's in a way better spot than where he was at the beginning of last year?
I'm not necessarily sure about that. Like, I thought Arch was pretty engaging at the beginning of last season, when he was pretty much the exact spot he was at last year. I mean, people thought he was going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. People thought he was a Heisman Trophy winner. People were loving on him, and the criticism really wasn't coming. But then I think he had that target comment ahead the Ohio State game, and they lost. And then the Florida game happened, and the Athletics calling him a flop. And he's starting to face some like real criticism. And, he kind of had to figure out how to navigate that water and, figure out how exactly, to deal with the media in that sense. And I think he kind of rebounded and kind of figured himself out by the end of the year. So, I think Arch is comfortable. I think he's kind of loose, but once again, everyone's loving on Arch right now. We'll see what happens if he has a bad game or two. What exactly, how he responds to that. I think that's gonna be the true test of kind of how he is feeling in these media settings and with all this attention. Just kind of how he responds to some adversity, because that doesn't necessarily happen in August.
Danny, I hope that you come and hang out with us in the north end of the stadium, because once we get down there to Bevo Boulevard, it's going to be off the hook. And I'm Cam Parker and Harge and myself. We got to introduce you to the new guy. We got a new guy.
Who's the new guy?
Eric. Eric, say hi to Danny Day.
Hello, Danny.
Okay.
Hello.
I'm a Michigan fan, by the way. I don't know that glitch. That was you, not me.
Okay. So you liked what I was having to say.
Absolutely.
I would say that I would come hang out with y'all, but that first game was at 2:30 in the afternoon, and I don't know what y'all are gonna be doing in the north end zone, but that's gonna be a little too hot for my preference to be just hanging out outside. So
I don't blame you, Danny. I totally understand that. I wanted to ask you this before we let you go. I wanted to ask you about, we start to look at this season. They said this is mock game week. Everything is starting to kind of take shape. What is it that you are looking most for out of game one? Because look, we know game two, we get that, but what do you need to see from Texas in game one, regardless of the opponent?
I mean, I think the question now is just straight up going to be what this offensive line looks like, especially if Trevor is unavailable to play, because, Texas State is one thing. I'm sure the Bobcats are going to be fired up to play, and, they have a really good, they have some good things going, and they have reasons to be excited with them going in the Pac-12, but they're not Ohio State. And that defensive line at Texas State is not the defensive line that Ohio State's going to bring down here in a couple of weeks. So you kind of want to know not only what does this remade offensive line look like after last year's struggles, but if Trevor isn't able to go, is Andre able to step up and kind of be a serviceable left tackle with a bigger test going next week, especially if Trevor is out for. I mean, it's easy for us to all just assume that he's going to be back for the Ohio State game, but we don't know that for sure. So I think that's one thing I'm definitely going to be looking at over the next 10 days, I guess, especially 10 days.
10 days, that's right.
See what that looks like.
Hey, I did need to ask you this. You got a chance to watch the documentary Untold on VY. Jeff Fisher is still a jerk. I mean, what in the world is wrong with that guy?
I was surprised when Jeff decided to talk. I guess you don't want people to talk for you, so he felt the need. He needed to talk to himself. I don't know how he thought that he was going to come across as sympathetic. But you know what? I also think Texas fans are giving Vince too big of a pass for this. It takes two to tangle. That was because that was just as much as Vince's fault as it was Jeff's. Jeff is a jerk, but Vince did not handle that well himself. And just because Vince wrote a letter at the very end of the documentary does not absolve him of what he had to do with the fall in Tennessee. So Jeff looks terrible, but I think we all giving Vince way too big of a pass because we all like Vince and Austin. And I think both parties deserve equal scrutiny for screwing up what could have been a very, very special thing in Tennessee.
I like that, Danny. Good job. See, you're always diplomatic.
I'm sure my mentions are people are gonna love that.
I can't wait.
In my mentions.
Yeah,
Mark,
I'm gonna be looking in there.
I'm scared what Mark has to say about that.
You can say whatever you like. Just show up at 2:30.
Don't do that, Danny. Don't do that.
I'll show up to the press box at 2:30. That showed up outside.
We'll have a cold drink for you, and then like the fans blowing.
Okay, that's a little bit more enticing, but still no.
Still no.
There he is, Danny Davis of the Austin American Statesman. You can follow him at _Danny Davis. Thanks, Danny.